Hey Brennan, it's Dr. Scott. I have some feedback for you on your second essay, and we're going to talk. I'll email you and ask you for a time to meet next week. So I'm thinking Monday or Tuesday, you and I can find a time to chat about my feedback. You can ask me questions. We get a plan together for your revision. I want to say that I've had a hard time kind of thinking through how to respond to your essay, and then I kind of figured out what the problem was. The problem is this: your essay is more about the history of the town and less about the visuals. You're doing a lot of interesting work where you're talking about the town and you're kind of connecting it to this deindustrialization idea, which I find pretty fascinating. But the essay doesn't really kind of get into the actual murals itself and talk about specific details and aspects of the visuals in those murals, and that's really where the essay needs to go. You have a solid essay that does some historical stuff, and I think I was asking for something that does a little bit more visual. I'm going to cut you a deal at the end of this talk, and I'll tell you what I'll be able to live with, so you don't have to gut the entire essay and start over again. But there is a fair bit of revision that kind of needs to happen. The kind of thesis statement that I was looking for this kind of an assignment focuses on the how, how the murals get an idea across. And here, by using famous athletes and moments in sports history, that opens you up to talk more about just history. It doesn't really kind of open it up to talk about the visuals in the murals. And so thinking a little bit more about the how, that's really kind of where this essay needed to go. Whether it's using bold colors, positioning of characters, the actions that they show in the murals. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of pull from and say that they're using this in order to get that idea of pride across, or emphasizing that Portsmouth has, for its size, done a lot of good when it comes to sports. So you have paragraphs like this one that kind of focus more on the history and a lot less on the murals. Another issue that I noticed is that you kind of did this thing where you talked about the Jackie Robinson mural, the Branch Rickey mural, and then you have another paragraph where you're talking about the Iron Man mural, and you really need to kind of bring them together, which means that you don't just kind of bring these two paragraphs together, but what you would do is you'd find what's one way both of these murals are trying to get a message across, or maybe are they saying very, very different things about them, about this idea of pride. They're going about it very differently. You find that how, and then you build a paragraph that's kind of around it. And I'll give you an example down here. Let me walk this over here so you can see my feedback. So in here I write, in the revision it will be important to get the murals speaking to each other. In other words, once you brainstorm the how I mentioned earlier, your paragraphs will have to support that thesis using examples and details from the murals. So here's an example. The Branch Rickey mural and the Iron Man game mural portray individual accomplishments and teamwork to show the city's pride in its sports history. And that's a shitty first draft, but being able to show individual accomplishments and how they portray those accomplishments, and that paired up with teamwork, it kind of shows the entirety of being in sports. It's about being a really good individual, but it's also about being a part of a team. And these two murals are showing the full side of being an athlete, is being able to balance those two things. And so that might be one way, that one how they get that message across. And so you'd have a paragraph that would start off with a statement like this, and then you have examples from both the murals that kind of show that. And so maybe a better way to put it is let me pause this for a second and I'll have something up here. Okay, so I got something up here that I think is a little bit further along. So the Branch Rickey mural and the Iron Man game mural, both those murals inspire pride in Portsmouth by portraying the balance needed for success in sports, individual accomplishments, and teamwork. And I think that you can kind of get in there and show visually how teamwork is represented. Well, you have these guys playing, but then you also have this weird stuff up here, and why is this stuff shaded in the way that it is? Maybe they want us to remember that teamwork is something that needs to be timeless. I don't know. There's so few things that you can do there. The thing is you have to in this paper write much more about the visuals and how the visuals are coming together. Like I said, I'm willing to make you a deal. Like I think you did, it looks like you put a fair bit of work into this, and for a different kind of assignment, I think that this would be pretty far along. For this kind of assignment, though, again, much more work with the visuals is needed. But I'll make you this deal. If you can revise the thesis statement, if you can write 2 body paragraphs where you're talking about both the murals, and you've got, and those body paragraphs kind of need to be connected to each other, like they're supporting that thesis statement that you come up with. I'll say that those 2 paragraphs, the revised thesis statement, and you also need to have some kind of organization, like you have one paragraph and then the other, and there needs to be a reason for why one paragraph is in one location and the other paragraph's in another. If you're able to do that, I'm cool with calling this a satisfactory and moving on to the next essay. But that kind of does need to happen, so if some of that's fuzzy, if you're not exactly sure how you'll go about doing that, make sure that you ask me about those things on Monday or Tuesday of next week when we chat. Okay, let's see if there's anything else down here. Nope, that was it. Yep, so we got a couple sources there, and I think that you did a pretty decent job of integrating the sources, although you don't tell us where the sources are. Oh yeah, you do right here, but you never kind of tell us like who Leo Blackburn is. That might also be something to kind of work on for the revision. But definitely, thesis statement, and getting me a couple paragraphs where you're talking about both the murals and using more visual details for the murals. That's really where the essay needs to go. All right, Brennan, that's it for now. Thanks a bunch for your patience today in class. That was a bit nutty. And thanks for sending this essay. It was a good read. I'll talk to you soon.